trying to find her something to write on. So, who's doing these just purely for ag exemption? Okay.
Well, both.
Okay. Is it Yvonne?
Yeah, I want to learn how to do it.
Okay. Is that how you say your name, Yvonne?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then everybody else is just curious about bees? Yep. Okay.
So
Yes.
we will probably start off as beginners and then work into using it for ag, is my guess. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Y'all have
me too.
you too, Karen? Do y'all have property that
Yes.
you're trying to get the bees on? So document everything about your beekeeping career that you're about to embark on. I mean, including taking this class. You know, write it down so the tax people know that you're serious about it. In the world of bees, there is a lot of equipment. My name is Donovan. You can call me Donnie. Somebody called me the other day, and I answered the phone. Hi, this is Donovan. You know, this is Donovan from Nature's Nectar. How may I help you? And the lady said, "Well, it says here you're Donnie." And I said, "Yes, ma'am. People do call me Donnie, but my name is Donovan. So, whatever." I was like, "Is it that big a stretch? You know, from Donnie to Donovan? You know, whatever."
We get lazy and call you Don.
Yes. Just make it easy. But so there's a lot of equipment in beekeeping, and it can be very confusing. So, Charlie, you and Stephen, maybe hand out these catalogs.
You bet.
And with catalogs, it just makes things a lot easier. How many you got there?
I got 6.
And the best place, I've you know, I always like to cheat and go to the end of every book so I know the ending. But I did find through the Master of Beekeeping program that it was best to usually start at the beginning. And used to, in the beginning, is where they had a setup of a diagram of what you needed for your beehive in this Man Lake catalog. But it is not there. It used to be in the back. I think they moved it to the back. But I don't see it there either. Does anybody know where that diagram is?
That was in the beginning.
It used to be in the beginning. Yeah. It's so silly that it's not in the beginning. Okay, so this is on page 12.
Found it?
Yeah, page 12.
And every beekeeping catalog might be different. So go to page 12. The numbers are down there in the bottom. You've got it. Minnie's got it. Everybody's got it. Okay. And so it gives you all these components. So back in, in the 60s, 70s, 50s, 40s, everybody used this bottom piece called a landing board. Now we hardly use that. We hardly see that even produced. So it's not really necessary for you to have that piece. The next piece is called a bottom board. So the bottom board is absolutely, it's pretty much necessary for you to have that, so that closes the hive up and it gives the bees their entrance to go in and out of the box. Now, these pallets that I have set here, these are, this is like a 4-way bottom board. So I can put 4 hives on this pallet. And it has an entrance for the bees to go in and out. So this is the actual bottom board right here. For you that have single hives, you'll just have a single bottom board, and that's what you're looking at in the catalog there.
Can you buy those separately?
The bottom board, you can. And what I was going to say about these kits, so on the next page they have a growing 10-frame painted growing apiary kit for $365. Now this catalog is 2022, so the prices might be a little bit different now, but in those kits, you are likely to get all of the cheapest materials that there are. So the cheapest wood, is not going to last as long. The wood needs to be it's best if it has a tighter grain. These are the commercial grade boxes that I've got here, and they're a little bit heavier, a little bit tighter grain than than what you would call your budget grade. The budget grade is a lightweight pine, and if you flip to a couple more pages in, you'll start to get to those boxes, and those are on page 19. So on page 19, they start to show you the unpainted boxes. They're still kits. Page 20, you're looking at the bulk assembled boxes. Same thing on page 21. Let's see, now, so if you want to look at commercial grade things, that they're on page 22. Let's see, where's the, here, okay, now page 24. The cheapest way for you to get your boxes is to buy the unassembled, unpainted, budget grade wood. And a lot of times the problem with budget grade wood would be that you would get knots here on the ends. It's almost impossible to drill through a knot or to drive a nail through it or a staple. A lot of times when you do, it will pop out. If you need to move, because if the sun starts to come up and you need to move, then that's fine. We may all end up over there and me over here. And that's always been a thing, the sun. But I'm glad to see the sun. If you have knots on the corners and you try to drive a nail or a screw or something, it's gonna pop out. And then you might feel like you need to fix that box so that there's no leaks in it. The fact of life is that there will be leaks, and whatever leaks there are, the bees will propolize that. We don't caulk the inside of the boxes. We don't paint the inside of the boxes. There are some beekeepers who will paint the inside of the boxes, but that's usually like a copper tox dip that they dip the box in, and then as a result, it's like gray on the inside. But green treated wood is the copper, also the copper dipped boxes, copper tops. But going back to the diagram, the second, so that big box we were looking at, which was the 9 5/8 inch box, is your brood box. So all these are what we call brood boxes. They're deeper than the supers. Super means to put on top. So if I'm gonna put a super on top of a box, that's what a super is. It doesn't matter what size it is. It could be 1 inch. It could be 20 inches, whatever. You're putting it on top of here. The Greek of super is to put on top of something, and that's all that word comes from. So in your first year, you just need that. So these kits that they sell are selling you 2 double deeps, and we call this a double deep, or a deep. 2 of them together, that's a double deep. So they're selling you a double deep, a bottom board, a super to go on top, and a telescoping top to put on the very top. Now, the word telescoping is confusing because to me, telescoping means to pull out. But these hive tops are called telescoping because they wrap over the side of a hive body. So it's coming out and going over, I guess, is how they want to, is how they came up with that telescoping name. Now, inside of the telescoping top is an inner cover. So the inner cover goes on top, and it has recesses in it. So this telescoping top does not have recesses. So when you put this on top of a hive, and you've got bees on the top, wherever this flat surface touches, you're going to squish the bees. So all those that are on that rim are squished, and they put out a pheromone when they get squished. And rest of the hive reacts to it. So, and it's usually not a good reaction. They're not having a funeral. They're kind of pissed off that you killed a bunch of bees.
But the
So,
cover goes on too.
right. So, if you have a telescopic top, that's what this inner cover is basically for. Now, the old kind of inner covers that you had a little notch cut right here, so that it would be for ventilation, because the air inside the hive has a lot of moisture in it from the bees, from them breathing. So when that air hits that top, it will rain back down on them in the form of water, and that can kill a small cluster of bees over the period of winter. So you need this to come up, and nowadays though, if you want a notch, you're going to have to make it on your own, because I don't know many of these beekeeping companies that sell a notched inner cover now. Not a big deal to make a notch. You just want it big enough for them to go through. Now some people will actually take and put pennies on the corner here, toothpicks, whatever, and then that way when you put your hive cover on, your telescoping cover, then the moisture can escape, because and your fear of the notch is that robber bees would find it and attack your hive from that area if they're not able to attack from below. So that may be a reason why they no longer want to put what's in my catalog. Anybody know where my catalog is? No, right here with me.
It was right here with you just a second ago.
Huh.
Is that it?
Oh, yes, yes.
Sorry.
Yes, I hid it from myself. Okay. So I don't really recommend the kits. It's very convenient, order this thing and get it all in one whack. If you break it down over price, you might get away a little bit cheaper, but do you want to put the hive together? Do you want to spend the time that it takes to do all that? Some people who want to, who are craftsmen-like, can do that. I'm not a good carpenter. I stink. I can't cut a straight line, and without a square, I'm probably not going to make a square corner. But my daughter and I had built our boxes when we first started, and I still see them on some of our hives today. So they're still holding up, and it gave me the understanding about bee space. So inside of all your hives, there is a certain amount of space that the bees can walk around, and so that space is called bee space. So between the frames, there's a little bar called a Hoffman shoulder that will give 3/8 of an inch, and so it allows the bees to be able to walk down the side of the frame on each side of the frame. So there's 3/8 of an inch here, 3/8 of an inch there. Okay, and then here against the wall, there's 3/8 of an inch. Anything less than 3/8 of an inch, the bees are going to either propolize, which is they take tree sap and make like a caulking agent, which is their antimicrobial, and they put that all over the inside of the hive. Wherever there's a crack, if it's too big, they want to seal it with propolis, and that's what they do. But anywhere there's an area 3/8 of an inch, they will not put propolis or comb in, because that's their highway. That's where they're going to be going. Anything more than 3/8 of an inch, they're going to put comb, because it takes comb to feel something like that. So if we make the mistake of leaving a frame out of our box, they're going to feel that with comb. One of the things about beekeeping in Texas is that we have something called the Texas Apiary Inspection Service, and they're our entity that creates laws concerning beekeeping and governing beekeeping. You have to have, one of their laws is you have to have movable frames. So if we were to have an outbreak of American foul brood, which is probably the only tragic disease, fatal, contagious to other hives, and last over 80 years, then that inspector would want to be able to come out and move the frames to be able to find the brood nest, to see whether or not, to do a test of whether there's American foul brood or not. So there is is a test that you can buy from Man Lake to do your own American foul brood test. There are other foul broods. There's not just American foul brood, there's European foul brood. So right now we'll try to deal with the equipment, and then I'll go to the
Do they come
diseases
around
and
if
pests
you
later.
are a beekeeper?
Sir,
Do they come around with beekeepers?
do they come around as beekeepers?
Do
I
they
mean,
come
do
around
they
to
monitor?
spots?
They come
They
around
come
to
to
the
visit.
areas, people who have that.
Not unless you ask them, or there's a complaint, or there's
Oh, okay.
some reason. There's got to be some reason, and there's not. I don't know how many there are inspectors, but there's not hundreds of them. I mean,
Yeah. Like more
they're
of
very few. If you want your hive inspected, you have to call them up and pay them to come inspect your hive. And sometimes that's something that some people want to do because they just want to know how their bees are doing. We've had our secretary. She had European foul brood. She was afraid it was American foul brood, so she called the Texas Apiary Inspection Service. They sent the inspector out. They had he's a great guy, and his name is Bill, and they had a great relationship, and he helped her a lot. And he did the test and found out that it was European foul brood and not American foul brood. So they're not there to just, they're not an inspection service that's going to come out looking for you to do you bad. We did have, when I first got into beekeeping, there were a lot of people who didn't trust the government, and they were anti-inspector, but really, if we had an outbreak of an American foul brood, that would be a serious condition that we would need to address. And we've only had a serious outbreak in the 20s, and that's how apiary inspection services in America got started, because of that problem. But they're not. Now in Australia, they had a reaction to varroa mite. So we all had this little bug we have here in Texas, America, called the varroa mite, and Australia was the only country that didn't have it, and they got varroa mites, and they went crazy. They started burning hives, and then now the beekeepers that got their hives burned are being reimbursed such a small amount that they can't really start beekeeping on the level that they were, the big commercial beekeepers. So they reacted, and it was a bad reaction. What we think, because we can't just go out and burn all our hives because we've got varroa mites. So we've got to figure out how to treat the bees and how to combat that. So that's something that we have to think about. And the Texas Apiary Inspection Service. So everybody have their phone? If y'all would, see if you can get on the internet here and go to Safari or however you do your searches, and search for the Texas Apiary Inspection Service.
Texas what?
Apiary Inspection Service. AP. Peter. APIA.
BPIA, is that it?
Yeah, APIA. RY.
TAIS.
Got TAIS, or just, you get the Texas Apiary Inspection Service, it'll probably be, or Texas Apiary. But you find it.
Yeah.
I-A-R-Y.
You get it?
Okay, now, so click on that. I'm clicking, but it's not moving.
Oh, it just
There
takes.
you go.
Want us to click on the website?
Yes, please go to the website.
Everybody get there?
I left my phone in the car. I didn't want to carry it.
She's with me, so.
Sure.
Yeah, click on that blue.
Now,
There you go.
I have a question.
okay.
Thank you.
Why can't the bees take care of this mite situation? Why? Is it not a natural thing that they can deal with?
So the varroa mite is something that bees in Africa deal with. Okay, and there's different types of bees. There's Apis cerana, which was used to having this rural amount on it all its life and dealing with it. And then there's Apis mellifera. We have Apis mellifera, who does not get along with the varroa mite very well. And so it's a predator on that bee that they've never dealt with. So, and it's been a difficult situation for us since the 80s, since we first got the varroa mite here. So, most of them, I think that they had a lot to do with colony collapse disorder. Remember colony collapse disorder? Thousands of beehives dying. Well, that was the situation. So, when you have bees and all your hives die, it's a bad situation to be in. I mean, you know how much money this is costing you. So, just think about it being all gone. I mean, what would you do? What's your solution for that? What is it?
I don't know.
we haven't had one besides treating it with a chemical. And so man's first reaction is to treat everything with a chemical. One guy told me when I lost those 16 out of 32 hives, you didn't want those hives anyway. Okay, well that was still $5,000 out of somebody's pocket. So if you just let it go, then that's what'll happen. They'll die. If you had 10 hives and one hive made it out and they never needed treatment all their life and you could grow bees out of that, then that'd be great. But everybody's going to have to do that, not just one person. So it's not going to, we need billions and billions and billions of bees to pollinate our fruits and vegetables for the rest of the country and the world to eat. So just saying, oh well, let's let them all die, is probably not going to be the answer. I know in China that they had a lot of, they used pesticide to kill everything in this one valley, all the pests, and that was including bees. And then they have to go and climb in the trees. It's a good thing these people are fairly small, because they got to climb up in all these different pears and peach trees to get pollen out. They envelope the pollen and take it to a store to sell it to somebody else who needs it to go pollinate their fruit trees.
Wow.
In that entire valley, and it was a huge valley, so it's a big deal. I had that video one time. I can't find that video anymore. So some things we aren't meant to see more than once, I guess. But so the first thing you see there on that Texas Apiary Inspection Service is talking about best management practices for beehive health, and then they're the screen changes to mite problems and things like that. So the mites are a serious issue for us. If you'll scroll down, you can click and say give us a buzz, so that's how you contact them. Click here to request an inspection. It's probably something I'm not going to do myself because I don't want to invite something like that out. If I was really concerned about it, I would go ahead and do it. Our secretary did; she had good results. It wasn't a big deal. But you always have that fear there of the government, the tax department, whatever. But then if your bees are in trouble and you need help, you just got to get the help you can get.
We'll call you.
No. So I've got 300 hives, and I don't really have time. I mean, you can text me, and I can answer it whenever I can. But a lot of times I can't. I used to stop while I was working in the hive and answer phones and texts, and I can't do that anymore. It's just too much. And that's the reason for these classes, and we want you to learn more on your own so that you know what to do. Because a lot of times you can be on Facebook and you can ask a jillion questions and you can get a jillion answers, but one day you're going to be at that beehive by yourself, and there ain't going to be nobody to answer your question for you. So you're going to have to make a decision yourself, and that's how this beekeeping life is. So it sounds a little harsh that we won't just run out and do everything for you to some people, but the reality is that they're at your house or wherever your apiary is, and you're going to eventually have to take care of them. So if you'll scroll down to the bottom there, it says click here for more information about the Texas Master Beekeeper Program. So the Texas Master Beekeeper Program was what I had found to go to help me be a better beekeeper. And because it's difficult to find mentors out there, it's difficult to pay what people want to come over and show you what to do. I mean, my services are around $80 to $100 an hour from the time I leave that gate to the time I get back to that gate. So it is expensive, and I'm probably mid-range. I'm probably not the low, and I'm not the high. So you had to think about that for your pocketbook as well. But if you'll go to the Master Beekeeper Program, and so I'm gonna click on it right now, and you scroll down, read all about it, and then you can get into the different parts of the program. You used to be able to, without having to register. So I'm gonna click on Texas Master Beekeeper Program, and let's see, talk about, look at the menu. So when you click on menu in the top right hand corner, there's program requirements, the apprentice level, advanced level, master craftsman. So let's click on apprentice. That's going to be basically your beginning, and then click on review sessions in that drop down box. So in these review sessions, there are different videos. So the first one that pops up is beekeeping equipment, honeybee biology, honey production and products, and disease management, what's next for the apprentice, and so if you'll go through those videos, it's going to give you a lot of information about beekeeping that you're going to have on just at your fingertips. I mean, so you don't have to call me, you don't have to text me all the time, you don't have to freak out about a situation that you've got, like if you're queenless. And so most beekeepers, most young beekeepers, what they first do is freak out about having a queen or having a hive without a queen. And then they just go and try to find the first queen that they can get, and that queen might cost you $75 plus $75 shipping, and you paid $150 for a queen, and you probably paid $200 to $250 for your nucleus hive. So your queen, you could have just bought another nucleus hive for almost the amount that you paid for a queen because you were freaking out about it. So that was one of the first things. I really never liked to be I really like not to have my anxiety level go to the point where I would overspend to get something to help my bees. So if you'll know the bee biology, you know how long it takes for the bees to make a queen, how long that they've been queenless to do so, then that will give you a little more quietness in your soul instead of just freaking out over losing your bees. So you've only got a certain amount of time before they start making another queen if they've lost a queen, and they've accepted her. So if you got in a $150 queen, you put her in there, and they've already are making a queen, and you didn't go kill all the queen cells that they were making, then there's a high probability that they will say, well, we already have one, thanks a lot, no thank you. And but the thing is, the queen you bought is probably bred, and she can go to work. She can go to work laying, where the queen that the hive would make is going to take 16 days to make. It's going to take another 5 days to mature in the hive and dry off enough to fly. Go out on her mating flight to another 2 or 3 days. Another 2 or 3 days for the semen to migrate down into her tubes where she can use it to fertilize her eggs. And then, so you're looking at 30 days. So in comparison to if you'd have just bought a queen, put her in, and did it in a timely manner, and she was accepted, and then the hive can survive. Now, if all this happens in, like, say, September, and you find a queen in September to get, and they decide not to accept her and go with the ones that they tried to make, then we're into October. And I've had difficulties getting queens bred out in Alvord in October. So depending on where you are and the amount of drones that are in your area, is going to determine whether your queen would be able to get bred at a certain time of year or not. Best time for queens to get bred are in spring. So a lot of times I'll have beekeepers want to get bees in the fall, and new beekeepers I automatically tell them no. You'll have to wait because I just don't want to set them up for failure. A lot of times they'll get a nuke in the fall. It won't be strong enough to make it through the winter without a lot of help, and they won't know what to do with it, and they could lose it. Now, experienced beekeeper come 3, 4, 5 years, come and say, hey, this is what I want to do, and you know what you're doing, so I go ahead and sell it to them, but I try not to do that to them. So the next thing you have to have is you have to have a top. Usually, if you don't cover this hive up and protect it from something, predator or from another beehive, then it could be a possibility of them being robbed out. I've seen huge hives robbed out from other hives, and they could be attacked from any different direction. There's bees out there in the woods that will come and find your hive, and they will pick on it until it finally is decimated. So you have to be careful about like if you were going to go feed your hive. This is what we call a hive top feeder. You don't have to have a hive top feeder, but if you do have a hive top feeder and you was to pour syrup into it, you would not want to drip that syrup all over the hive because that would call in other bees to start robbing from this hive. So, and then this syrup feeder holds about 3 gallons, so that's about 24 gallons or 24 pounds. So after you put it in there, you're not going to want to take it off because it's going to be sloshing everywhere, and then you're going to make a big mess, and that could cause robbing too. So when you're feeding your bees, you got to be careful about that as well. So we have another type of feeder. It's called a frame feeder. They come in different sizes. This is like a 2 gallon. This is a 1 gallon. This one has ladders for the bees to go down into. This one doesn't. It does have like rough walls, and I'll put a piece of wood or something in there. If the bees draw comb in there, I leave it in there because it just allows them something to walk up and down on. That way it just keeps them from drowning. So that's what the purpose of these ladders, and this is called a cap. This is called a ladder. So when you look in the catalog for cap and ladder feeder, this is what you're talking about. This is a feeder without cap and ladder. So like I said, you just throw a piece of wood. You cannot throw green grass in these because the green grass will ferment with the syrup, and then you'll have a stinking mess in there.
Do you have to have those feeders?
You don't have to have them, but sometimes we have to feed our bees.
Like in the winter?
Well, so in the winter, when you get your, if you were to get nucleosides, you're getting fully prepared hives right now. But if you get a nucleus hive, which might come in a box like this, it's only going to be 4 frames and a feeder, and there's going to be anywhere between 9,000 and 12,000 bees in here. And at the time of year that you get them, we really don't have a lot of blooming. So what do bees eat?
Pollen, sugar?
Pollen and nectar. So nectar is sugar water made from flowers, and it's an attractant for them to come and pollinate, come and get the nectar from the flower to pick up pollen because their little bodies are negatively charged, have negatively charged hairs all over them. And so when they bump up against the flower, they get the pollen, and then they go to another plant and they transfer pollen to that plant, pick up some more pollen from another flower, and go on to another one. And so that's what they do. But the plant is bribing them to come do it with the sugar syrup, with the sugar water, the nectar. So nectar is 80% water, and so the bees will take that sugar and take it back to their hive and impart enzymes into it to make honey. And, you know, so these are the only little animals that make honey. The only ones that take a nectar from a flower and go transform it into a food for themselves. So if there are no flowers, they'll have nothing to eat.
I got some of those jars that have little feeders, can you use those?
So are you talking about, does it go on the front of the hive?
I'm not real sure.
Yeah, so
It's almost like it just sits on top of it or something.
so you could take a jar with a meshed lid on it and put it on top of the frames and then put a box around it so that say that jar had a mesh lid and you put it inside your hive, you'd need to put a box around it and a top to keep it protected from other bees. But the feeder that you may be talking about,
Page 99.
page 99. And what kind of feeder is that called?
Well, there's several on here.
Okay,
It's the jar that you set in the front entrance.
sure. That is called a Boardman entrance feeder. So Boardman entrance feeders. So everybody go to page 99.
98 is that one that you showed us just a minute ago.
Yes. Thank you, Karen. So at the top of page 99 are two little apparatuses that you would put jars in, mason jars. And then you would slip that in the front of the hive here. So that's called a entrance feeder, a Boardman entrance feeder. You put it right here. When you have robber bees, they don't have to go inside to get the sugar syrup that you're giving your bees. All they got to do is make it around the edge of that little Boardman feeder. So what happens with bees whenever they find a substance to eat?
I'm big on that.
They go back to the hive, they do a little dance on the comb, and they tell other bees what they got. And the other bees elicit from that bee what it has. So they go over and touch. They're very touchy little bugs, and so they touch each other on the mouth parts to elicit some of that nectar that bee got. And then they identify that nectar and go out and try to find it. So bees do everything by the sun. So the bee has told all the other girls, they're all girls, she's told all the other girls where this nectar came from that she just got. And they're all very excited about it. And they all go out to find that location. And once they find that location, they lock it in on their GPS. And then they go back to the hive and they tell more. So what we want in a production hive is 40,000 bees for them to make surplus honey, for them to have and for us to have. So if 40,000, let's say 20,000 of those bees go out and pinpoint your hive with the little Boardman feeder on the front, then as soon as that syrup runs out of that little quart, or whatever size of jar you got there, then they start going inside to find what else is in this hive. So your hive can be completely decimated.
So they're not good feeders then to have?
We don't recommend it. You know, bee supplies sell things that beekeepers buy, and the more you sell, the more money you make.
So
Yes,
could you do that to attract a swarm to come?
To an empty box, I wouldn't do it to where my hive is.
Yeah, well, I have empty boxes.
Yes, sir.
Well, you got the space underneath is wide. Does other bees go in and rob it also?
It can. Yeah. So what you have is an entrance reducer to block this off. You really only want
Well, small place,
3/8
right.
of an inch to half inch to be
Right.
open.
I'm gonna say,
If you have a supremely strong hive and your own nectar flows, we don't even put entrances on. But that only is going to happen one time a year, maybe twice a year around here. So you're going to want a very small entrance. I know beekeepers, commercial beekeepers that they're married to a half-inch entrance. That's all they want, half-inch. They don't care what time of year it is.
Does the hive can protect that entrance?
Right.
Right.
Right. They have to be able to protect whatever they have. So a lot of people, so this scary guy that I've managed bees for, the one that I lost 16 hives from, he said, well, how come we ain't making no honey? I said, well, there's nothing for the bees to eat. It was like July. And he said, well, why can't they eat that grass? I said, well, because they ain't cows. Well, they don't eat grass. All they eat is sugar and pollen. Pollen is their protein, and their carbohydrate is sugar in some form, whether it comes from a plant or whether it comes from man or high fructose corn syrup, whatever, however you're going to get that into them, that's what they had to have. So they had to have certain amounts of that to make it through the summer and through the winter. Our main concern is that they have, 30 to 60 pounds of pollen going into the winter, and because most of the time we just think about honey, and 30 to 60 pounds of honey is not going to hurt. I've had as much as 120 pounds of honey on. I found that I really don't need that much in this area, but it was always good insurance whenever I was able to have that much on the hives.
Is that to feed them?
For them to eat through the winter.
Yeah.
Now, you might be more open to taking more honey in the late fall, and then giving them back what we call a candy board. And we've always seen good results with candy boards. So candy boards is basically a shim, a trough that you would put sugar in with just a little bit of water, and that would make a cake, and you put that on top of your frames like that. That absorbs some of the moisture from your hives, and then it also makes it where the bees can process that sugar and eat it through the winter. So we have some people that take all the honey and give them a candy board so that they can sell the honey or utilize the honey, whatever they want to do.
Now, you use your own honey?
What?
You use your own honey to feed them?
If I just leave the honey on, so I'm not extracting it and then feeding it back to them.
You don't buy honey to feed them?
No, no, you would never want to buy honey from a grocery store
Right.
to feed to the bees, because you have no idea whether it's got an American foul brood spore in it or not.
Right.
So if you fed your bees that, American foul brood don't hurt people. They can sell honey that has it in it and it'd never be detected. But if you were to feed that to your bees, it could be bad for them.
So sugar water is a 50-50 mix?
It depends on what time of year, Yvonne. In the spring, we're saying we're typically going 50-50 or 2 parts sugar, 1 part water. Usually in the fall, it's 2 parts sugar, 1 part water, because you want that to be thicker for them to make the honey faster. Okay?
How often do you check your bees?
In the springtime, I want to check them so it takes 16 days for them to make a queen. So I want to check them about every 7 to 10 days myself.
Okay.
And it come along summertime after swarm season's over. So springtime is swarm season. That means they're procreating. They're really rocking and rolling. If they have something to eat, if they don't have anything to eat, then that's an issue. But when they get to rocking and rolling, she will lay 2,000 eggs a day at her peak, and she can fill a hive pretty quick. It takes 21 days for those to emerge. Now, so every 7 to 10 days is what I'd recommend in the spring. Summertime comes along, not quite summer, but late spring, early summer. I can just drive by these hives in a pickup, and if pollen's going in, I'm good. If pollen is going into the hive, that means that they have larvae to feed that pollen to. If there's absolutely no pollen going in that hive and it's like May the 31st, there's something wrong. They probably don't have a queen. They probably don't have any larvae to feed, and they're on their way down if you don't get a queen in there or combine them with another hive.
And then you start feeding them?
When do you start feeding them?
No, then you start feeding them.
Well, they'll still go get nectar,
Oh, okay.
but pollen is the major issue that they need to feed the babies.
So it slows them down.
It will slow them down, yeah.
Can you talk about a whole year cycle when you would feed syrup versus a candy board versus how much, and just through a year cycle?
So when you get we try to get our nukes here, around April 15th to April 30th. And usually you'll have to feed them from that time until, May 15th. I'm always going, April showers bring May flowers. And you're going, April showers are supposed to bring May flowers. April showers are supposed to bring May flowers. It seems like, you're getting 3/4 through May and you don't have them. But we like to get our nukes in at that time of April. That way you've got about 9,000 to 12,000 bees when you get our nukes. And then a week later, they're gonna have an emergence, which is another 5,000 to 6,000 bees per frame. So you get 2 frames with brood on them. So that could be a possibility of another 12,000 bees. So at that point, you're getting up around 20,000 bees. Well, then you got 21 days for her to be laying. So you want to be feeding her so that she's laying quickly, and they're drawing comb for her to lay in. And then that's the major expense of your nucleus hives. Now your major expense of package bees is going to be all the comb. So with the nucleus hive, you're getting four combs, 4 frames with combs. But with the package bees that you bought from Georgia or wherever you buy bees from, Man Lake sells package bees too. You'll have to feed them 8 pounds of sugar syrup or honey to get them to draw the amount of comb for every pound of comb that they need to draw. So it's very expensive that way. Yes, ma'am.
So whenever you're making the mixture, is it just regular white sugar? Is it sugar, like is there a specific kind of sugar, brown sugar, or is it any sugar?
I would just use cane sugar or beet sugar.
Okay.
Raw sugar in the raw is I don't know what it's got in it, but it's got impurities in it that would stop up the proboscis. The
So
proboscis,
cane or beet is best?
the what?
Cane or beet?
Right.
Okay.
The proboscis that the bees is their drinking straw. It's so small that any particle that would get in it is not going to allow anything to pass through the proboscis. So just that type, and they sell at Costco and Sam's. I think they sell a very finely granulated, easily dilutable, easily dissolved sugar. It's a very much smaller sugar than what you're buying at what's that cane sugar
So
company?
like powdered sugar?
Domino or something like
It's
that.
something like that.
It's
and
not powdered. It's very fine, but it's not
It's like,
powdered.
it has fine, I think, written on the
Right.
package.
Yeah.
Because the problem that you're gonna run into is trying to get it to dissolve, because you have to get your water so hot, and if you dump it in all, my experience is if you dump it in all at the same time, it cools the water down and it won't dissolve it.
Gotcha.
And then you've got chunks. So using that fine stuff really helps, but they don't sell it at Walmart.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
don't sell it at
Yeah.
Walmart.
It was I think
You have to go to Costco or Sam's.
Costco's the last place that I got it that had that super fine stuff. It dissolves really easy. But so, Stephen, to answer your question, so that's your first part of your feeding there, and you would need to feed them until you get on a nectar flow. Well, what's a nectar flow? Well, when you have flowers blooming everywhere, and the bees utilize all flowers. No, there's some flowers that they don't get anything out of. Depends on how deep the flowers are. The proboscis of a bee is only like 6 millimeters. The Italian bee has the longest proboscis. So that's a very small amount to be reaching down into a flower to get nectar out of. So there's certain flowers, of course, most native flowers are better because their root systems go deeper into the ground and they're going to last longer and they're going to produce more nectar in that area that they're native to. So you have to watch to see if you have flowers blooming, when they're blooming, and how the bees are reacting. If the bees are flying into the hive and they are landing easily on this little landing board area that your bottom board has, then they're probably not carrying anything. But if they're hitting down here at the bottom and they keep missing the entrance and stuff like that, that means they're very heavy. So if it's early spring and they're very heavy, then they've got nectar. If it's July, August, September, it's 110 degrees, and they're missing the board, they probably got water, because they need that water to cool the bees off inside, the larvae off inside. So they got to keep their brood nest at a certain temperature. So then, what most people do around here want to extract their honey in like September, and I prefer to extract honey whenever it's there. So if they made honey, let's say the first week of June, it was ready for me to take, I'd take it, and then I might have to feed them to get them to the next nectar flow. Now, the first week of June, we still ought to have some things going, some flowers blooming, so you might not have to feed them. But if you want to, the stronger you want your hive to be, the more you would want to feed it. We don't want to feed the bees while they're on a nectar flow if we're wanting to take that honey. If you have no intention of taking the honey, then just go ahead and feed to your heart's desires. If they take it, I give it to them, especially in that first year. When you get to the fall area and you decide you wanted to take some more honey, then you could, and then you would have to, for on a single hive, you would come behind your hive and pick it up, and that's called hefting, to see how heavy it is. If it is so heavy that you can't pick it up, they're good. But if it's very light, pick it up with one finger, there's nothing in there, you're going to need to make sure that your bees have 60 pounds plus of honey and pollen to get through the wintertime without your assistance. If you don't mind assisting them, then that's when you would go to a candy bowl. We don't feed syrup when it's below 55 degrees. If you do, they can't do much with it. They're probably pretty lethargic to go to it anyway. It's usually upper 40s, lower 50s before they're out flying anyway. And at that point, they have to heat up their muscles by vibrating their bodies to get to 70 degrees to be able to fly it off. So that's one of the reasons why we don't give them syrup, that especially in an open feeder situation that they would fall into, they're going to drown. They're going to be so cold they can't move. And so bees are really, they're hot-blooded little animals, but it's a fine line between getting too hot and too cold for them. So you just have to pay attention to what the temperature is doing and not give them something that they don't need at that time of the year. So that's your part of your management, and part of your knowing what you need to do with your bees. That's why I directed you to the Texas Apiary Inspection Service Master Beekeeping Program, so you can go and peruse those videos like that. So the main parts of feeding is going to be in the spring, possibly in July. If you don't have anything blooming in July, then you might need to feed your bees in July if you've taken honey from them in June. These trees right here are called vitex trees. And the only reason why I planted them is because they bloom in July. And so I'm personally always looking for plants that bloom in July. I wished I could just cover this whole place with that purple coneflower, the echinacea, because the roots go 5 foot into the ground and they're native. So that would be ideal for me. I would love that. But we'll see if that ever happens. I got too many animals that like to eat stuff, So you have to think about that. If you've got cows and you're trying to plant clover for your bees, it probably ain't gonna work, because cows are gonna graze it all down. And some clover does well with grazing, and some doesn't. So don't do that. So the main thing about your bees and your equipment is what you see in the hive. So for just demonstration purposes, this is a grossly over-exaggerated display set here. So this is what a bee egg would be like in the cell. Go ahead and pass that around. So this is basically what you're looking for in the cell. That egg is going to hatch in 3 days and become a larva. So this is the resemblance of a larva here. Then at about day 8 or 9, depending on the sex of the bee, then it's going to spin a cocoon and pupate. And this is the pupa stage here. At day 21, the worker bee will emerge. At day 24, the drone bee, the boy, will emerge. At day 16, the queen bee will emerge unless she's got Africanized genetics in her, and she may emerge at day 14. So that's the importance of different sizes of the bees. When you're looking, you don't have to. You don't have to. If you need to go to the restroom, go ahead. So we do have 2 restrooms in this old house here. Down the hall to the right is a low flush toilet. So best for number 1. On this end, for your other uses, is our larger toilet with full flushing capacity. So you just go in the house, go through the living room. All the lights are on. If you have to move anything, you've gone the wrong place.
To the living room and to the right.
Through the living room and to the left is the heavy flush. To the right is the light flush. So when you don't have to see the queen when you're looking through your hives. You can look for eggs. If you see eggs that are standing straight up, which are kind of hard to see unless they're on black foundation or black comb, then you know that queen laid that egg that day. So on the very first day, the egg will stand straight up, and then after 24 hours, it will start to lay down. At the end of on the 3rd day, then it's going to lay completely down and then hatch. That's the only thing. That's the only time anything hatches. So our egg hatches at day 3, and then it goes into that larvae stage, and then it'll stay in that larvae stage for 8 or 9 days, and then spin a cocoon, and the cocoon will be the start of the process of the capping. The bees will then take propolis and wax and start capping that, so that pupa can be inside of that cocoon and be isolated. Now, one thing about, Yvonne was asking about, well, why won't the bees treat themselves? So one way they do treat themselves for varroa is when they smell a varroa in the cell with a pupa, they will pull that capping off. And they're doing that to dehydrate the cell, which will kill the varroa mite eggs and the varroa mite larvae. And so a lot of times you might go into your hive and you see these bees looking like skeletons with dark eyes looking at you. You're going, what is going on in this hive? And that's it. They're trying to treat themselves from varroa. Sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. But it's always a good behavior to see. The queen is almost twice as big as the worker bees. And can you see the queen there, Benny?
Several that are big, but I don't know. Is it this
That
one?
would be her.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's almost twice as big. The Italian queens, they are usually orangish in color, and they're the easiest to see. Any type of crossbred that might have carnolian in it, and carnolians, they're also Italians, but they're a different Italian breed. Do you see the queen, Yvonne? Yeah. And so you don't always have to see her. If you see the eggs in the hive standing straight up, then you know she's there. So the other queens, carnolians, are darker. So I have a real problem being able to see black queens, but these orange queens, usually I see them much easier. This is one thing you look for in your hive. This is a very good brood pattern here of cat brood. This is what we'd like for all of our frames to look like. If your frames are not looking like this because they have a lot more empty cells in them, then it might be time to replace the queen. So these are cat brood, and the open spots there was something wrong with those brood in there, so the bees pulled them out. Well, the more open holes you have with no eggs or anything in them, the more problem you have with possible inbreeding for your queen. So the workers can detect that there's an issue with the larvae and they'll pull them out. So that's one thing you want to look to make sure that you have. If we have that solid pattern of cat brood, then that's for the best.
They're fascinating little creatures.
They are fascinating little creatures.
So the brood is what you would call after the larvae develop some?
So it's all brood when it's even. So you have eggs first,
Okay.
and then when they hatch, then they're brood, and then when they're in their pupal stage, they're brood, and then when they emerge, they're fully grown bees. But they need to dry out for a week, and they'll be very lightly colored, and then we call them a callow bee at that point, which means they can't fly and they can't sting. So when you have a bunch of baby bees like that, we call them, I say baby, but they're actually adult bees. When they're not dried out, ready to fly, then we call them callow bees.
And what are we seeing on this one?
That
That's
is
just the brood?
capped brood.
A healthy,
So-
healthy hive.
Yeah, that's a good frame of brood. The queen is doing very well. If we had a lot less or a lot more open holes, then there would be something wrong with the queen. We might need to replace them. But that's at least what you're looking for right there. Now the one with the queen on it that you saw, there was a lot of open. That's probably going to be all larvae and eggs that she's walking across. Okay. Now when the bee emerges, it turns around, cleans its cell out, and takes all the cocoon it can out, and then it marks it with a pheromone for the queen to come and smell that pheromone, so she can lay an egg. It's saying my room's been cleaned and it's open for you to lay another egg.
Wow.
So they are amazing little creatures. So why don't we go ahead and get everybody a break? If you need some water, there's water over here on the ground. And just to be real quick, everybody understands that this is a frame that goes in the hive, and this is what the bees draw their comb on and do their thing with.